Hey guys, it's Caroline, and today I'm going to be talking about the ACT and how to study for it. So I have a lot of stuff to cover in this video, so I'm going to try to make it as short as possible, but I also want to make this video super informative and really understandable for you guys, and hopefully it's going to help a lot of you with the whole process of applying for college and getting a good score on standardized tests. But this is the book that I've been using for studying for the ACT. I usually get the Princeton Review for all of my tests. I use the Princeton Review book for my AP World History test and my AP Biology test this past year. And they were great, really useful, really understandable and user-friendly. They're easy to read and very helpful. So the ACT test is comprised of 4 different sections, and if you sign up for the writing section, then it's 5 sections technically. But the 4 sections that are like bubble-in answers are English or grammar, math, reading, and science. So there's a whole set of questions for each one of those, and there's different times for each one of those sections. So the English test is 45 minutes, the math test is 60 minutes, and then both the reading and the science are both 35 minutes each. So those are very time limited sections, and those are the ones that you really have to focus on when you're studying. It's really about how quickly and how accurately you can answer questions within the given time limits, and they kind of grade you by that. As long as you're focused and you go into the test knowing what you have to do and knowing your time limits, that is going to benefit you a lot, because the first time I went in to take the ACT, it was just going to be my baseline test, and I had no idea about the time limits, and I had really no idea what was on the test, meaning that I didn't really understand what the sections were made of. Now that I've been studying for a little while, it's a lot less scary, and I'm going to make it super easy for you guys to understand how to study for it, and you guys are going to be ready when you walk into the test. So before I get into how I study for it, I just want to say that the test is out of 36 points, and you get a grade out of 36 for each one of the 5 sections, or 4 if you choose not to do the writing section. And then all of those scores are averaged together to get your final score out of 36. So when you're going to study for the ACT, you really don't need a tutor unless you want to learn some cool methods or tricks and shortcuts to answering questions and things like that. So those things can be learned in like a class or 2 if you want to take an ACT prep class or something like that. But you don't need a tutor to study for the test, because the best way to study for the ACT is to take the tests. So obviously you can't just take the actual test a million times to get a good score and to practice for it. So you gotta get a book, or you can do online tests, which I will discuss later. But the best way, I think, is to get yourself an ACT book, whether it's the Princeton Review or another one. And then you need a calculator and a pencil, and then I use a highlighter to go over the answers after each section when I'm done. So what I do is I do a portion of each of the 4 sections every day, so that my mind is fresh and I don't wear myself out too much on one topic per day. So I don't go through the entire 45-minute English section in one day. Instead, I do a passage of reading, a passage of English, a passage of science, and 10 math questions. And the times for those, which I will put on the screen, are for each reading section, you have to do it in 8.5 minutes to have enough time for each section. And then the time for each English section is 9 minutes. The time per 10 questions of math is 10 minutes, so you have a minute per question. And then the shortest time limit is 5 minutes, and that's for each science passage. And they usually have around 5 or 6 questions, depending on the passage. So I will also have those times in the description bar below, and also some other notes just so everything is super clear for you guys. Another thing is that the highest calculator you can use, or like the most advanced calculator, is a TI-84, and this is what I use on my tests. And this one works super well. I have the color one. It's an actual screen, it's not just black and white. These cost about $100, I believe, and they're a really good investment because you'll need them in college and definitely for your senior year and most likely for your junior year as well. So in each of the books, there should be around 4 whole tests of the ACT to study from. And in the back of each test, there's the list of answers so that you can obviously review and see what you got wrong. So after I do each section, so after I do one of the 4 sections and just a little bit of it, so either 9 minutes or 8.5 minutes of whichever section, depending on which one it is, I go to the answers, review it, see what I got wrong, then I move on to the next section. So if you're having trouble with some specific things like grammar rules or getting down certain math formulas, then a great idea is to make a review sheet for yourself. So you write down the things that you usually forget or that you haven't learned yet, and you can review off that sheet before you do practice tests or before you go to the actual tests. And once you make the mistake during practice, you probably won't do it again because it's usually a silly mistake. Like I was doing review just yesterday and I made a super silly mistake and I answered a question that I know the answer to wrong, but now I'll always know that answer if I get another question like that because I've reviewed it before, I've seen it, and I have that implanted into my brain. Now keep in mind that this is not the only way to do it. You don't have to do a little bit of each of the 4 sections a day. You can do a whole section each day of the different sections. You can do the whole test in a day. There are many different ways to do it, but I don't recommend really just wasting a whole test on one day, because that day you might have not been super clear or you might have just been stressed out. So I think doing a little bit each day is super beneficial in the long run because you stay fresh and it's constant practice. So I think that that's the best way to do it, and it's also really fun to do because you can do it with friends, you can do it by yourself, you can do it anywhere, and it's all up to you. It's all self-guided, and that's like one of the most rewarding things you can do is self-improve on things. Do you have any tips for the people?
Just take it serious and try your hardest, and when you get something wrong, make sure to go over it and understand why you got it wrong.
So by improving with the ACT, doing this kind of practice at home, you can see yourself improve weekly or daily depending on, you know, how often you do it and how consistent you are with it. Another thing is try not to get frustrated if you get a lot wrong on one section one day, because you can always improve, and it's good to get ones wrong at home rather than on the test. So practice is better than not practicing at all. I'm almost done, guys, but the last thing I want to mention is that a few weeks ago I found an awesome app called ACT Up, and there's also one for the SAT, but it's great because if you're on the go or in the car or whatever, it has some practice tests just like in the book of reading, math, science, and English. So that's a great app. And then if you want to do it online, there's a website called varsitytutors.com, and they have practice tests as well. So I hope this video was informative and helpful for you guys, and I wish you luck on studying for the ACT or any other standardized tests. So if you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!